Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to go through the rest of the constitutional amendments. We covered the Bill of Rights earlier. Now we're going to cover the 11th Amendment all the way through the 27th Amendment and hit the main points of each of these amendments. The 11th Amendment, as we have stated here, states that individual states and the federal government cannot be sued by other countries, and is creating some liability protection at the state and federal government level. The 12th Amendment is another explanation that goes into details on how presidents and vice presidents will be elected and the election process through the Electoral College. The 13th Amendment is a very, very important amendment. As you can see, we have it underlined in red to draw your attention. It is the amendment that outlaws slavery in the United States. We also have the date here, January 31st, 1865, underlined in green, also to bring your attention to the fact that this was passed and ratified and brought into the Constitution while the Civil War was still going on. By January 31st, 1865, it was pretty clear that the Union was going to be victorious in defeating the southern states, and at this point in time creating a law to protect all the citizens living here from slavery became very, very important. We mentioned in class, and we talk about it, there is one exception to this 13th Amendment, and that is if you are put into incarceration for a felony at a county jail, or even say a state penitentiary, or even a federal prison, you can be forced to work without pay. Chain gangs are an example of how that could work, doing work on the county level or at the state level. We even mentioned in class when we were upgrading our football facility that we had inmates from the state prison here come and help put the grandstand together. And as we didn't have to pay them, we just had to feed them. And so they were a big help in coming and putting our football grandstand together back 10, 15 years ago. No slavery. Slavery is outlawed. 14th Amendment, also very, very powerful amendment that is a byproduct of the Civil War and of trying to strengthen the Union. There are basically two major points to the 14th Amendment. Also, I draw your attention here to the date. The date is June 13th, 1866, so we're about a year past the Civil War now. And the highlights of the 14th Amendment are, if you are born in the United States, no matter what state you're born in, if you were born in the United States, you are given citizenship. Now, why this is important is because you had a lot of former slaves living in the southern states who now were free people, and to be given their full citizenship rights. The vast majority of the slaves, by the time the 14th Amendment had been ratified, had all been born here in the United States. So this was to codify and give them their citizenship rights. The second part of the 14th Amendment, also very, very important, lists three things that individual states cannot deprive citizens of. And that is life, liberty, and property without the due process of law. Meaning the process of going through the courts and having your other constitutional rights kick in that we talked about in the Bill of Rights to protect you from losing your life, from losing your freedom, or from losing your private property. If that is going to take place, it has to be done through a process of legality, and those rights are spelled out throughout the Constitution. The 15th Amendment basically guarantees that if you're a citizen of the United States, you have the right to vote. This is another protection put in for former slaves all around the time of, as we moved past the Civil War. If you are a citizen and you have the right of citizenship, you have the right to vote. Now, the 16th Amendment is one that if you have a job and you make money, is one that is not maybe one of your favorite amendments. And as you can see, it simply says Congress can tax income. The 16th Amendment gave Congress the power to pass laws to now tax the sweat of your brow. As a citizen, you go out and labor in various professions, and the income that you receive from that labor, the Congress can pass laws and tax you and take some of that money for the good of the country. We have talked in class how right now in the United States, our income tax system is what we call a progressive tax system, meaning the more money you make, the higher you will spend, a higher percentage of tax you'll have taken out of your check. But this has been in place since the 16th Amendment was ratified and allows Congress to pass laws to tax your income. The 17th Amendment says senators are voted in by citizens. Now this is we put up here, update, because in the past, earlier in the Constitution, senators were chosen by state legislatures. This updates it and now makes it so senators, each of the states getting 2 of them, as we studied earlier back in our articles, Article 1, used to be voted in by state legislatures. Now they are voted in by the will of the people, all right? Here in Utah in the year 2020, neither of our senators, Senator Mitt Romney or Senator Mike Lee, are up for re-election. Senator Mike Lee, I believe, is up in the year 2022, and Mitt Romney will be up for re-election in the year 2024. They will be voted in by the will of the people, not the legislature. All right, updating an earlier part of the Constitution. The 18th Amendment, another interesting amendment to the Constitution. You can see the little red cross through it. It was passed and then repealed, or shall we say passed and then replaced. The 18th Amendment ushered in a period of time in the United States history known as the period of Prohibition. And at this time in the United States, in the late 19th century, moving into the early 20th century, people were drinking a lot of alcohol, and it was causing a lot of social decay. And there was a huge movement throughout the United States to prohibit the legal sale of alcohol. This amendment was passed, and of course we know that just because you make something illegal doesn't mean that people won't keep using it. And so illegal alcohol, bootlegging if you will, became a very profitable business for many people on the black market. The 19th Amendment passed, another major milestone in our nation's history, passed June 4th, 1919, underlined in green to catch your attention, is the vote was given to women. Now it doesn't come right out and say that in the Constitution. It basically says that regardless of sex, the voting rights will be given, all right, to all citizens regardless of their gender. To make it nice and concise, the 19th Amendment, a hard-fought amendment, one giving the women the right to vote. The 20th Amendment sets out when a president's term will end. Now, I put term limits, but it's basically when the term will end, and it always ends on January 20th at the 4-year mark of a president's term. So on January 20th, the year 2021, we'll be inaugurating a new president. At this point in time, it looks like Joseph R. Biden will be inaugurated that day. The 21st Amendment, as you can see the big purple arrow coming from the 18th Amendment, the 21st Amendment repeals the 18th Amendment. And basically what that means now is alcohol and alcoholic beverages are now made legal, and they just become part of the economy again. And it has been in place now since the 21st Amendment. Side note, it is of curiosity here because alcohol in Utah is not consumed as much as it is in other states, but Utah was the state that reached the 3/4, right? Because it says in the Constitution, in order for an amendment to pass, it has to be 2/3 in Congress and 3/4 of the state legislature. The state that put it over 3/4 was the state of Utah. So this was, our state was the deciding, our state legislature voting to make alcohol legal was the state that put this 21st Amendment over the top. The 22nd Amendment prescribes that a president cannot be elected for more than 2 terms. This was in response to Franklin D. Roosevelt, who actually served 4 terms. He passed away in the middle of his 4th term, but he was the longest serving United States president. And to protect from having presidents one-person rule in the executive branch for extended periods of time, the 22nd Amendment was passed. And now you can serve up to 8 years in office. The 23rd Amendment basically says that states,
get equal vote in the Electoral College, equal to their representatives and their senators. As you can see, we have down here in parentheses, Utah gets 6 as of right now because of our population, which is just around 3.3 million people. Utah gets 6 votes in the Electoral College because we get 4 because of our House of Representatives, and +2 our senators gives us 6 in the Electoral College. The 24th Amendment is one to protect citizens, most of them in the southern states, former slaves. Some southern states were making poor citizens come in and pay a tax in order to vote. And if you couldn't pay the tax, then you didn't get the right to vote. And that was a way of trying to limit former slaves exercising their rights as citizens. Of course, voting is a fundamental right as a citizen. So the 24th Amendment is important because it basically means voting is your right and it shouldn't cost you any money. Voting is free. States cannot charge poll taxes. When you go to the polls to vote, you have to be able to go and vote and have it not cost you anything. Right? Voting is free. The 25th Amendment is a process for removing a president who becomes incapable of serving in a situation of maybe a stroke or a heart attack, or mental cognition gets slow, Alzheimer's maybe kicks in. So anything that makes it so a president can't fulfill their duties. The 25th Amendment outlines the process, how they'll be replaced, and as you can see, the vice president is the #1 option to do that. The 26th Amendment brought the voting age to the age of 18. So once you turn 18, you can register to vote, and then you can begin the process of voting. So teenagers at the age of 18 can now join in that process as citizens. And the 27th Amendment fixes congressional pay in the periods of time that they serve, so that it's just a protection that there can't be any fraud or mismanagement of congressional pay raises and hikes. It has to be done in an orderly fashion and on a set time so that the public can have confidence in the compensation that goes to our elected representatives. And that is the 11th Amendment through the 27th Amendment of the Constitution. Thank you for joining my YouTube channel, and have a great day.